There are reports that Harry will meet his father, King Charles, for the very first time in 20 months when he's in London next month. He's visiting the UK for the 3rd anniversary of Queen Elizabeth's death and to attend the WellChild Awards. But it's thought that he won't be paying a visit to his older brother, Prince William. I wonder whether you think Harry should say something to his family like, I'm sorry, or just move on and talk about the weather. I mean, what should they do to try to build bridges? Let's start with you, Belinda. So have you ever, I don't know whether you've ever had any feuds in your family, whether you've had feuds with friends. How do you do the thing where you somehow get past it and build a future instead of still being stuck in it?
Well, it depends. My father's a twin and he didn't talk to his twin brother for 30 years because it was just a toxic relationship from when they were teenagers and they just brought the worst out in each other and just sometimes it doesn't work out. I think it's different with a parent and a child. I think you do, broaden your forgiveness abilities a bit more if you want to reconcile with your child. And of course, King Charles is in his twilight years. He's suffering from cancer. If I was him, I'd want to reconcile. It just depends what the motivations are behind, Harry wanting to reconcile with King Charles. And you better get that NDA out for Harry to sign before they have any meetings.
I mean, Sam, you've got these wonderful brothers. I've had the pleasure of meeting them and they are great and you all seem very close, but I don't know whether you ever fall out. I don't know.
Of course. I mean, when we were kids especially, there was fights, there was violence. It was like we used to fight over, we used to play Sabutio, table football, and the violence got so out of hand. My mum, what she'd do is she'd pretend to faint to distract us from the fighting. And of course we'd ignore that and she'd get up and she'd do it again until we noticed. So it was a nightmare for her. I've had feuds with my dad. On Father's Day 2017, we took him to a fancy restaurant. We had an argument, me and him, and I threw liver and bacon at him and left the restaurant.
No.
And that wasn't good.
No.
I didn't, that was shameful.
You can't be wasting liver and bacon.
I know, that was the main thing. And he had a lovely clean white shirt. But you know what? That night, he actually sent me a text going, sorry about that, I wound you up.
Oh, that was decent.
And I was really touched by it. And obviously I was apologetic to him. And it's like, get these things done quick, because the longer they go on, the more they fester and the harder it is to come back.
So you are a writer of scripts. You are someone who does this type of thing. Yeah. So imagine you were giving Harry a script and the King a script and they had to read what you'd written for them to say. What do you think is the best way to make what could be the most unbelievably awkward encounter be profitable and just kind of improve matters?
It's difficult because they're different people. I mean, Harry, the freelance prince, he's quite sort of modern and woke and touchy-feely, and I think quite open about his emotions because he's always been involved in mental health campaign and stuff. He'll want to communicate on that level. King Charles, very, very old school. Yeah. Probably doesn't find it that comfortable to speak so sort of explicitly about feelings and emotions. So if I were Harry, I'd lean into that. I'd try to go in and connect with him about the things that you used to connect over. Right. Memories, hobbies, stuff you both like. Send him a funny GIF on WhatsApp. Stuff like that. Remind people of the fun side of the relationship you once had, rather than start digging deep into emotions that someone of King Charles's demeanour and generation is not going to be able to handle very well anyway. Just to reconnect with people with memories. That's what I do. If I haven't spoken to someone or I've fallen out, I'll often say, remember when we went on that trip, or remember that time we laughed about this. And I think it's a really good way of healing wounds and moving on.
Do you agree, Jake? A sort of not a forensic kind of examination of everything that went wrong and not a you did this and we did that and I was very hurt when you did this. Not that. Just don't
give
do
each
that.
other a hug.
Give each other a hug.
Give each other a hug, man. Life's too short. Like I would give anything to see my dad again. Like, I lost my dad. We didn't really argue. We bickered. I bicker with my mum all the time. But it's done. The argument's over. Do you want a cup of tea? It's back to normal, because family's so important. You can't choose your family, obviously, and a lot of families don't get on. But for me, it's so important to just have that relationship with your families, forgive and forget, move on, have a cuddle, like you said, share some memories and some gifts, and just move on. Like, everybody needs their dad, everybody needs their mum, and I'm sure King Charles would love to just give his son a hug.
And see his grandchildren. He hasn't seen them since 2022. And I think that's a rather sad thing for the grandchildren as well, not to have that link. I wish them well, I really do. But same. It is going to be tense and filled with historic pain. Yeah. And as you said, King Charles isn't necessarily going to be the most, 2025 well-being balanced.
Yeah, and you shouldn't expect him to be. That's the thing. With your parents, they're never going to be like that. So I think you should meet them where they are.
My mum always said, don't go to bed on an argument.
Yes.
Just before you go to bed, just make a text or a phone call.
I just
My dad
wonder
was
though
old
whether,
school, though.
but I wonder whether you all think that it's made much more difficult because it's so public. You know, you've got the eyes of the world. They're going to be counting how many minutes Harry was there. They're going to be wondering where William is that day and why he decided to prioritise wherever he is rather than seeing his brother. You know, it's not the same as an ordinary family where you can, you know, just do it in private and make your mistakes and nobody will be sort of picking at it and sort of, you know, deconstructing what you could have said and what you should have done. And we're doing exactly that now, and I am aware of it. It's not like I don't realise. I do realise, but I'm just wondering, Jake, whether you think it makes it harder.
Of course, it makes it harder. But and also, do we really know what's gone on? Do we really know? Have we been in the room with them and we know exactly what's happened? We don't. So just let them sort it out in their own terms. And it does, having that kind of magnifying glass on everything that's going to be happening is going to make it so much harder for them. But me, being me, I think you should always try and make up and move past it and just have a hug. If I ever fell out with any of my kids, I'd be devastated.
Oh, God, so would I. So would I. I couldn't even bear to think of it, quite frankly.
Exactly.
I just could not bear to think. And also little grandbabies that you don't see. And then you see like half a picture on Meghan's posts on Instagram and you haven't actually spent any time with them. Oh, how heartbreaking. Let's go to Grace. She's on the line in London. Hello, Grace. What do you think should happen?
Hi. Yeah, I think it's probably important to make a distinction between people's behaviour and the people themselves. So one could really disagree with things that Harry has done. I'm not a royalist, but I'm certainly annoyed by some of the things that he has done in talking about the royal family in his book, for instance. But as a parent in particular, it would be great if Charles, and I imagine he can still love Harry in spite of not endorsing his past actions. And I think that most parents can love their children whilst hating some of their behaviour. And I have in mind the story of the prodigal son, which I think is quite familiar to lots of people, which is, you know, about a child who comes back after they've done some terrible things, and the father still really, really wants to engage with his son and love his son.
I mean, Grace, that's the veritable definition of unconditional love, which is I love you when you're right and I love you when you're wrong. I always love you, whatever you've done. And I think most parents really do genuinely feel that. You could never imagine not loving your child, whether they were the worst person in the room or the best person in the room. Grace, thanks so much for that. Let's go to Janice in Essex. What do you think, Janice, about this?
Hi, Vanessa. Hi, panel. I don't understand how this is going to work because allegedly Meghan is doing a documentary for Netflix about Diana. Now, the boys said once they did that, that would be the end. It would be no more. So I think Charles might be able to reconcile, but I don't think...
William.
I know they've got Beatrice I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit tongue-tied.
You're thinking of William. Janice, I haven't heard that Meghan's making a documentary about Princess Diana. Has anyone else heard this?
All I heard was that Prince Harry was warned not to make a documentary about Princess Diana. That's what I read in the paper.
But we certainly haven't heard that they are going ahead with that at all.
No.
So I think, Janice, that might not be a factor because I certainly haven't heard that this is among the raft of commissions that Netflix may or may not be giving the Sussexes at all. Have you heard
But I think the only chance for reconciliation is if they can trust Harry again, because he has so far used the last 2 years as, you know, the royal connections as currency, especially airing all the dirty laundry. So there has to be a kind of a watertight trust going on to move forward. So I hope that happens.
It is very difficult when you worry every time you say something to someone that they may leak it to the press, Sam, isn't it? You know,
there's too many other people and voices involved in this. So you're right, there's all these different people you could speak to and they might leak something. I'm reading about this story, and the way in which this summit has been arranged was there was a meeting between the King's head of communications and Prince Harry's head of communications, and you think, for goodness sake, all these people have a stake in this. You know, what's to stop? And we're saying, why can't, you know, why is it so public? It doesn't need to be. You know, what happens if the King is sat watching The Box in the evening with Camilla, relaxing, and his phone goes and it says Harry's calling on a FaceTime, like with no intermediaries getting involved in that? I know it sounds daft, but it's not really. This is a father and a son. And maybe they should cut everyone out, including wives and all the rest of it, out of the whole thing
100%.
and just reach out.
Go on a fishing trip together.
Yeah, I mean, go down the pub, whatever it is that you once did that you enjoyed doing together. Like if it was my dad, I'd say, come on, let's go to the football together, right? Or do something that we used to love together. Do that, call him up. You know, you didn't used to be able to do this sort of thing. Technology now allows you could FaceTime him. Would he answer the phone? I would imagine King Charles would answer the phone if he FaceTimed him. So, Harry, if you're listening, if you're watching, give it a go. Cut the other people out because it's just noise. And everyone's got their own agenda as well about how these things unfold.
And also, what harm could it do? It couldn't make it any worse, could it? Let's face it. Let's go to Enon in London. Hi, Enon. What do you reckon?
Hi. There's so many factors to all of this, to be quite honest. And the question frames that Harry should make amends. Well, the king is the head of the monarch, and it is his role, head of the church, and his relationship and how it reflects the United Kingdom, first of all, and the wider sphere. And I think Harry has put out that he has made a lot of attempts to reconcile. And let's be frank, when the book came out, Spare, it came out after the continuous breakdown from the press, the royal family, insiders, leaking stories about him and his wife. Harry has every right to protect his wife. First and foremost, not the monarchy, his wife. And he was not happy with how the press treated him or his family, his newfound family. He was excluded from so many things. If anything, Charles, who had an affair with Camille, should make amends right now and call his son. Stop putting the pressure on Harry. Harry has done enough throughout Britain, on the global sphere, and doing his business with his wife.
Right, that's a valid view. You're definitely entitled to it. Camilla, not Camille, but absolutely we get where you're coming from on this, although I don't suppose he needs to make amends for having had an affair all that time ago to anybody who's alive now, do you?
The onus is on the parent, though. Usually it should be.
So I know a lot of people are
cynical. I agree, because I know a lot of people are cynical about Harry, but I think you're the dad, you're the adult here, you reach out.
But it is as recent as May of this year that Harry went straight to a big BBC interview after losing his appeal for security in the UK and claiming on TV, my father won't talk to me, and then speculating about his father's cancer. And these little things, to me, just worry me that it hasn't necessarily been a long time thing, Harry's want for reconciliation. Or why
do you think that's a cry for help as well, though? Do you think he just wants his dad to come? Yeah. And him coming out with those things, he's like, please, Dad, please just reach out to me. Like, I don't want to have to say these things, but it's getting his attention kind of thing.
Gosh, you just wonder, though, whether you reach a point where the hurt goes so deep that you can't see beyond it. The hug and the memories and all the lovely things that it would be so great if you could fix onto, but actually you're still kind of reeling from the blows of it all. And it is very deep. And you think how involved we all seem to feel in it and how cross we can all get with each other about it. And there's nothing to do with us at all. Let's bring in Louisa in Manchester. Hi, Louisa. What do you think?
Hi, good morning, or good afternoon, really. Actually, having listened to everybody's side, I do honestly think that Harry should apologise, because whichever way you look at it, he has behaved really badly. He's really thrown his toys out of the pram. And, he is also an adult. He's allegedly married. He's got 2 children. And, if he wants to be the better person, then just pick the phone up, speak to your father and say, look, Dad, I've done and I've said things that are not particularly pleasant, but look, I want to come over, let's talk and let's see. Let's be adults, not have anybody speculate and see where we go with it. But I do think, sadly, I'm probably going to get shot for this, but I think Meghan pulls the strings, and I think she is 90% to blame for all of this.
All right, Louisa, so it's very interesting because Enon didn't think that at all, thought the very opposite. Louisa's really putting it all down to Meghan. Let's very quickly hear from Kylie in Devon. What do you think should happen, Kylie? Imagine you were telling them what to say. What would you suggest?
Pick up the phone. Visit your dad. At the end of the day, he's your dad. It's very difficult for them because in the public eye, it's not like us. We fall out. Parents and children fall out all the time. We all know that. But it's very difficult because we're in the public eye. But just be a son, pick the phone up, say, I'm sorry. That's it. One word.
And it's also true, you don't have to be bosoms all over each other every second. You can just get something going on, can't you?
Exactly. I mean, I fell out with my sister many years ago, and my husband passed away, and I picked up the phone. We had a silly argument, like you do in families. That's what happens. You have arguments. I picked up the phone and I said to her, look, this has happened, and I'm sorry. That was it. And now we talk to each other. We started writing postcards.
Oh, that was a good idea.
The old-fashioned way, as you like writing. We wrote letters. Yeah. And now we talk on the phone. And that's how it's progressed. But just saying sorry, that's it. He's made mistakes. I'm sure Charles has made mistakes as well. So it's a family.
Kylie, great call. I mean, it really is. It's true. You don't have to go back to being best pals straight away. It could be slowly. Absolutely excellent. I think the punchline of this all is we all wish they just would. We hope they will. And we all think there must be some way forward.